What's poppin', everybody? Tara Lynch here with The Next Big Thing, the video cast sharing all things infotainment. This week we are doing The Next Big Thing year in review. You know what to do. Let's jump right in. To wrap it up in a bit of a fun way, I'm going to give you a fast 5 questions. We'll do it quarantine style, so kind of what you've been up to. So what is your favorite show to binge watch right now?
High Fidelity and Normal People. Both of them. They're very different shows, but oh my god, amazing shows.
Interesting that you didn't say Little Fires, but I'll throw that in there.
Oh, of course, Little Fires. I'm here promoting my show, and I completely forgot about that one.
I mean, we can watch all 3. We have time now, so
all the time.
You've got it. Favorite song or album to listen to?
I've been listening to a lot of James Brown because you can't help but dance to him, and I think we all need a good dance session right now.
Said you liked cooking, so what's your favorite quarantine food?
Okay, food. I've been cooking a lot. I made this, it sounds disgusting, but it actually was really good. It was this beetroot hummus. It was hummus with beets, so it was bright pink. And it just tasted like really amazing hummus. But I've also been baking a lot, so I've been making a lot of pie with my dad. That's probably my favorite out of everything.
Good to have the balance, healthy, sweet. It's a good balance to have. I feel like a lot of it, including myself, have just been eating all the time because we're bored. So I have to try both of those things, pies and, beet hummus as well. Not together, probably not together.
Don't do it together. Don't recommend that, no.
And what's been your favorite trend on social media?
I love the Some Good News that John Krasinski's doing. And I love that there's this trend of just sharing positivity and sharing really sweet things that they've noticed and how people are helping. I'm such a sack for that kind of stuff. I think that social media can either be really toxic or really beautiful and helpful. So I've been following all of that. That's just been my favorite.
And we have more heartwarming trends on this week's Next Big Thing. If you haven't checked it out, go check it out. And finally, to wrap it up, your favorite quarantine activity?
Oh my god. I think my favorite quarantine activity is actually dancing. Just turning my record up to 11 and dancing with my dog and just having a good time and letting loose. That's amazing.
That's got to be the best thing. I love Grey's Anatomy, so the Meredith Grey, Christina Yang Dance It Out moment. That's one of my favorites in that series, so glad to see that I'm not the only one who's, doing that in my bedroom or something.
We're not. You are not alone.
We are not alone. We are united together. I want to just, on top of that, we're all dealing with social media. For me, it's one of my biggest fears going into this industry, having people hate on you, via their screen, via their keyboard. And I know that you experienced this as well. So I wanted to ask you, for myself, for everyone else, how do you work through these haters and stay positive and keep, going to your personal trainer for your brain and, doing those exercises so that you can focus on yourself?
Through my whole career, those haters have been my pull-ups, right? They're the ones that make me stronger, both in my social media life, which is not real, and in my personal life. Something that I learned first through the haters on social media was how to set up real boundaries and how to find my identity without other people's input. Social media helped me develop, for the first time in my life, something where my strength or my belief of myself inside surpassed what others thought. It's not an easy task because we're all impacted. And I won't say that, I'm a bulletproof to, things that people say, but I almost, first of all, if you're getting hate, good job, because that usually means you're being seen. And it usually means you've got about 3 to 5 times more love coming at you. You just didn't pay attention to. And I think that's, if you're not getting any response, I don't know if you're doing the job that you need to be doing. People are polarizing. And the other thing I always think, I'm sure that, Tara, that I'm sure there's someone that you say, I don't love watching that person, or an actor or an actress, or Nickelback. not to bring up the Nickelback thing, but like, because that seems to be more of a common one. Jennifer Love Hewitt, I always say this. She's a wonderful human being. I've now seen her, interacted with her. But growing up, I didn't like how she acted. I would never write her on Twitter and be like, I don't like how you act. She's just not my style. And knowing that too, is that we're all humans and we all have fits and styles. You're not going to be everybody's style, whether you wanted to or not. And I'm the one that was like, unknowingly petitioning to be homecoming queen for 8 years because I just wanted everyone to like me. I've grown so much from that person. And I think that knowing that I like myself and knowing that I don't care if everyone knows that I am imperfect has made me the most homecoming queen I've ever been in my life.
With the death of George Floyd and the protests that have followed, what are steps that we can take as journalists to make sure we are sharing these stories and getting that content out there to make sure we're doing our job as journalists?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've seen so many posts during this time of, oh, the media is not going to show you this. I think even LeBron James had tweeted, the media is not showing you this, when literally the media is how he found it, and the media is why he tweeted it. So I think that there is this distrust between the public and the media, and we've seen even protesters get really mad at Fox News crews. We've seen protesters be also violent with the press, and so it's definitely something. I think telling the whole story is really important, and showing how you're news gathering, how you're putting together the story is also important if you can. I feel like in a time like this it's really hard, but using social media to show behind the scenes of what you're doing as you're out there reporting on TV or writing an article, I feel like it's super important to actually show people, to make sure that we're the ones people are learning from, versus because I think that's what's happening too, is people are saying, oh, the media is not going to show you this, so I'm going to show it to you. And I think that can get lost because you don't want just activists showing information, because it's not going to do all the sides, right? And so I think that doing that, and then also being there for the people, I feel like is something that journalists could do more of, and not being on the side of protecting the police, especially since the police aren't even protecting us at this point. So I think that it's important to say, journalists is to keep an eye on the government, to keep an eye on the police and the people, for the people rather, that need, their voices amplified.
I want to kind of take you back to August, because you went from covering not a lot of active sports, and then August hit and you were covering everything basically in Pittsburgh. That's kind of when NFL kind of started with their camps, the NHL was going, Major League Baseball was going, you had college football kind of coming down the pike. So just what was it like kind of going from 0 to 60 at that point?
It was a lot. And it's, in a weird way, I keep saying it's like a delicate balance of things are easier with Zoom press conferences, but also they're more complicated because your days get so much longer, because we would have, I would be jumping back and forth. I'd be on a Steelers Zoom at 9, a Penguins Zoom at 11, a Pitt Zoom at noon. And sometimes you're like, oh my gosh, there's so much going on. Or, a Zoom with the Pitt athletic director or something that, we really kind of had to just, it was not, things were slow, but we were, still making content, still doing a lot of specials, which was amazing when things weren't happening. But then all of a sudden, like you said, everything's all happening at once. So then you have to really kind of prioritize things too. And it's like, okay, what are the big storylines here? How are we following this? I'm going to go on Penguins today. My boss would be on the Steelers Zooms. And it was, it was strange to have kind of everything, because I feel like we're usually used to having like the NHL and NFL overlap a little bit, but never did I think I'd be, covering playoff hockey at the same time that the NFL season was starting. That in itself is like, it was a lot of busy days. But they also, it felt so good, as I'm sure it did for you too. It was like, okay, we finally have sports back. Things are actually happening. Like, the way we cover things changes, but they're still happening. There's still sports. And I think we kind of all were like, I'm never taking this for granted again. Like, I don't care how busy it is, just because I missed it so much.
What is the most challenging part about, launching a social media account like this and kind of turning it into a brand?
I think it's patience. Like, I think everybody wants to grow overnight, and it just doesn't work that way. I get messages all the time saying, how did you get 10K? Can you get me there? And I was like, if you give yourself 18 to 24 months to put in the work and make the posts and produce all the content and engage with people who want to talk to you, yeah, I can get you there. But it's not going to happen overnight, and it's not going to happen by me giving you a shout out on Instagram. It definitely doesn't work that way. It takes a little bit of work, which I try to preach to anybody who sort of asks me on what I'm doing.
How do journalists kind of ensure that the important stories are getting told, but that they're also getting followed up on so we don't forget?
Well, it has been an excruciating year for everybody. I mean, journalists just included. But you know, in trying to cover the stories, I was in New York City in the beginning of the pandemic, following this story every day for weeks. And you know, as the number of deaths just piled on, and I was at the hospitals where they were seeing horrors like we haven't seen before. So it was this physically challenging, not getting much sleep, working around the clock like on any big story, but emotionally challenging as well, because this was happening all around me in my neighborhood. It was impacting my family and my friends. We had colleagues who got sick. We had colleagues who died, and we know people who died, and that you're suddenly now part of this tragedy. And that's when it gets especially hard, because, you know, we're not supposed to be the story, we're supposed to present the story, but yet we're in the middle of this because it's engulfed this entire nation and the entire world. So the most important thing for us in the very beginning was just to give people as much factual information as possible. And then also try to tell the human impact story. And it was very difficult to do in the early days, as so much information was coming out. Anybody who was on their phones, it's like, you know, new information, this is shutting down, this is shutting down, this is changing, that's happening. It was so much. But we just had to work extra hard to try to sift through it, and every evening and every morning present like the tightest package on what you really needed to know. And you know, I'm not going to sit here and say that like we were perfect in our presentation every day, but I'll tell you what, a lot of people worked really hard to try to make sense of what was happening in the world for the public watching at home.
Just try to make sense of probably the biggest story that has happened ever in either of our lifetimes.
Yeah, I mean, I was there. I was around for 9/11. I mean, I remember that like it was yesterday, and I thought that you thought there couldn't be another profound moment in your lifetime, and then this happens. And what's different about the pandemic from 9/11, as awful as that was, this impacts every single person. The wealthy, the poor, all racial and ethnic backgrounds, although some communities have been devastated more than others. But there is not one person walking this earth who is not impacted by this, who is not separated from somebody they want to be with, who needs to go somewhere that they can't go to anymore. This is the ultimate story that has shifted everyone's lives in a way we never, ever, ever imagined. And that means it's a huge responsibility for us journalists to try to get it right, and to try to separate fact from fiction, and to help people navigate this world with our reporting.
John, we got a quick, fast 5 covering politics questions for you. Number 1, who is your favorite politician to interview?
Well, I think the most fun I had covering was John McCain in his first presidential campaign in the year 2000.
What is your favorite area of the White House?
I love the South Lawn. The South Lawn is just amazing. And you look back and you see the North Portico and the Truman balcony. Great place. I'd love to play wiffle ball back there sometime, but I probably never will.
Goals. We all have goals. We all have those.
Who knows?
You never know. Can you describe the briefing room in one word?
Small.
Small. And what is one thing you always have on hand in the briefing room?
Always have a pen and a notepad.
Always.
Even in this digital world.
I still got mine. I still got mine right here. And last question, how do you prepare for that competitive press room?
I go in with 20 times more questions than I'll ever have a chance to ask, because I know that somebody else may ask the thing I think is the perfect question. So you're always going there prepared and anticipating how to follow up.
Always prepared. And hey, maybe we'll see some wiffle ball on that South Lawn one day.
We'll see.
There were a lot of great on-screen moments, but of course, off-screen, we don't get to see that. What was your favorite off-screen moment?
It's really hard to pick a favorite moment. I mean, I think anytime we were dealing with fire, it happens to be really exciting. There were moments where we were burning the inside of the house and the kids were throwing matches and running down the hall. And then there were moments where we were burning the outside, where we didn't actually put the house up in flames the way you saw it on screen, but we had flame bars and different things. And it just had an excitement that, you just felt like we'd been building to these moments for so long. And then anytime we burned the art, we only had 1 or 2 copies. So everyone would gather around, everybody had their phones out, and everybody was really excited to watch how it burned. But I think within that, one of my favorite moments was actually, there's a scene with Izzy where she runs out of the house in the finale and she's so upset. Something really upsetting has happened. And she, screams, and I was in the monitor at Video Village and I was just like so in it. I accidentally screamed too, and then I was like, oh my god, I was like so in it with her. And I think my other favorite moments behind the scenes were Carrie always does stuff to pull performance out of other actors, and there's a scene in the finale also where she and Reese are kind of in Mia's apartment, and Mia asks this question, what did you give up, Elena, like in your life? But when it was on Reese's coverage, instead of saying Elena, she said Reese. And it just like sent like chills through, like those moments would just like send chills through my body, and I would be like, oh my God, what's gonna happen? She just said Reese instead of Elena. Like those moments were so fun. So yeah, the behind the scenes, when I watch the show, I see the show, but I see all the behind the scenes moments, It's like 90 degrees and all the snow is melting and we're all freaking out. Stuff like that.
How should they prepare, and what is your best advice for them as they enter this job market that's crazy with, sports that are fluctuating daily?
My first bit of advice would be prepared to hear the word no a lot. But that's okay. In normal times, you're going to hear no a lot. Don't take anything personal. Make sure that you've established relationships with people. So, for example, if somebody says, hey, I don't have an opportunity right now, you don't know if that opportunity potentially 6 months from now could happen. So I would continue to make sure you have established relationships with news directors if you're getting into the TV side or potentially the radio side. So down the road, that if that person knows somebody to make a phone call for you and you're prepared, I would be mentally prepared to do anything, to go anywhere and work the weekends and the holidays for the next 2 years to show your value, to show your worth, to make sure you are available, because you're not going to get opportunity if you're not available. So for me, my recommendation is it is extremely tough in this business right now. It's going to be very tough. That's just the reality. I wish I could make the rules, but I can't. But when I got in the business, I got rejected by 50 news directors, and I thought I had a very strong tape. And I've always told kids that, or college graduates, all you need is one person. You need one person to believe in you. And after 6 months of hearing no, and there were a couple leads that I got. I finally got a yes, and I took advantage of it. So for me, it worked out. But telling that 22, 23-year-old person who's frustrated and doesn't understand, it's nothing personal. It's never going to be anything personal. It's just the situation that, this industry's in right now. And being fully aware that if you're available, the opportunity will also find you. So I would make sure you continue your relationships with news directors. And, to a point where if somebody says no to you but says, I really like your tape, give me a call back in maybe 6 weeks. Make sure you write that down. Make sure you do a follow-up a couple weeks later, and then make sure you follow up 6 weeks later, right? Or also ask them, hey, or her, hey, do you know any potential opportunities down the road with other stations or people that you know? Please, I would love if you could share my contact information, or can you give me that lead? Because getting that job turns into a job. Don't think that this is like one of those, hey, I tried for an hour for today, I'm done. I would suggest that, while you're looking for that job, every day, put in 4 to 5 to 6 hours as if it's your own job to get a job. And what you're going to find out is that you're going to hear a lot of no. You're going to test yourself a lot, but it gives you the ability to build relationships and a network down the road that may reward you.
We've done this before on The Next Big Thing. I'm going to ask you 5 quick questions. I want your initial response. So we will start with, what has been your favorite moment as an ESPN analyst?
Favorite moment as an ESPN analyst was walking in on the SportsCenter set when they were filming, and I end up poking my head in, and you see me on air behind Kevin Negandhi. And the reason I end up walking on the set is because I'm gonna go say to Kevin, like, peek around the corner and be like, hey, guess who's back on SportsCenter? Like, joking around. Well, I didn't realize they were filming. He's doing a full interview live on TV about a boxing match with I think it was Freddie Rhodes or something like that. And you see me poke my head in, and as soon as I turn the corner, I see the red from the camera, and I was like, oh, and I just kind of hide. And I look over at Vilman, I'm like, are they filming? And he pulls me back from the doorway and he points up this giant thing that says live on air. I was like, oh my God. So Kevin has a screenshot of it, which is hilarious. And then they replayed it on SportsCenter, which was even more embarrassing. So yeah, that was my favorite part so far.
Definitely a funny story there. Do you have any pre-show rituals? Anything that you like to eat before a show? A song that you listen to? Anything like that?
Let's see. Not necessarily, but I do appreciate when Kev does a little fist bump. Like right before we go on, it's like a minute or 30 seconds before, he'll kind of just look at everybody on set and, all right, we good? Let's do it. And we do like a little air fist bump, like, all right, lock in, bring your best stuff, and let's make this a good segment.
What is something that maybe we don't know about you? What's like a fun fact that you have that we don't know?
I would say that, I like to sing karaoke, but that's now way out there. So I do play a little bit of guitar. What else? I'm currently in Ensenada, Mexico for my birthday. And I'm hanging out with my son and my dad, and we have a little place down here in Ensenada that we've been coming to. My dad's had it for like 40 some years, and this is where I learned how to ride a bike and have some of my fondest childhood memories here. But we're gonna take my son out, go. So there's this little estuary and bay area. You got to go. You get this pump, and you suck these shrimp out of the ground, and you put them in a bucket. Put them on your hook, bait your hook, and then go fish in the bay here. And so we'll catch a bunch of halibut or some spot fin croaker or stuff like that. But it's I've done it forever, and so it's fun to do it with my son, who's going to turn 4 here in the next couple of weeks. So we're gonna do that today and tomorrow, and then head back to California.
And what was your favorite moment, speaking of California, as a USC Trojan?
Ooh, that Rose Bowl game was pretty special. Ending on that note, we threw a few touchdowns. I got to rush for a touchdown, which I love doing. And we finally, we had been working on that quarterback draw all year and we never ran it. And it was a check. And so our check was any shoe brand at any point. If I just said alert, alert, and Converse, Nike, Reebok, Adidas, whatever I said, that just automatically meant the play's off, we're running quarterback draw. And so we got in an empty set, and I just gave the alert, Nike, Nike, Nike. and boom, said hi. And it was just wide open. It was awesome. And it was finally like, I would try and check to it in practice 100 times when it wasn't open. And coach was just like, all right, we're going to take this away if you don't know how to use it properly. Okay. So can we just, but it finally happened in the game. So that was pretty fun.
And finally, our last Fast Five, favorite NFL moment.
Man, those championship game runs were fun. I think our second playoff win in San Diego was probably one of the best. I feel like I had to buy like 200 tickets. You know, my best friend and all my buddies from high school and college were in a suite. They ended up sitting next to Adam Sandler. So, I mean, after the game, you would have thought they were best friends with Adam Sandler, who's a huge Jets fan. And so they were embellishing all their stories, but it sounded like they had an amazing time. While our game was going back and forth and I was losing my mind. But I'm glad they had fun. Let's see. I think that there was a fourth down, and essentially, you know, we convert on the fourth down and it's over. And we can just take a knee and run out the clock. And when you can finish a game on offense, there's like I don't know, like some sort of dominance factor. Like you win the game and you win it outright, and you know, it's our ball, we're going home and it's all over. See you later. And so everybody in the stadium, everybody on TV knew exactly what we were going to do. And we were such a good rushing team that everybody up front knew what to do. And it was essentially just, you know, turn around, hand the ball off and let them do their thing. It was a great handoff, I might add. But, you know, it was just like we knew it was going to happen. And there was a quick decision process, maybe 10, 15 seconds where everybody's like, are we going for it or not? And you could tell everybody like, we better be going for this. And so it was just nice when everything comes together like that in preparation and you get to do what you're good at. Our bread and butter, just turn around, hand off, 40 blast. Like that was great.
Okay, all you cool cats and kittens, that's all the time we have this week on The Next Big Thing. Thank you so much for tuning in all year long. Your support means so, so much. And remember, when you need the news that pops, I'll be here with The Next Big Thing.